Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the channel. So you have made it to the last episode of the Near-Death Experiences series, and for that, I thank you very, very much. I hope you've enjoyed it so far. We met some incredible people who have had incredible experiences, and I couldn't think of a better way to sort of tie a bow around the whole thing than by some post-death experiences. And if you haven't seen the Psychics and Sources series that I do on my channel, then you won't know that my mum is a very successful psychic medium and healer, remote viewer, psychometrist, and all sorts of other cool stuff. So she has a very interesting perspective on this whole topic. Everybody that we've interviewed so far has sort of been behind the curtain and then come back, and she deals with people that haven't. So I thought that would be a great and interesting way to end the series as a whole. Now, I will say, and it guts me to do so, that the audio is pants, but that's because we had to record it over Facebook Messenger and wing it. And between my kit, her bad internet, it doesn't sound very good, which sucks. So please accept my apologies and stick on the captions and you'll be absolutely fine. Anyway, I really hope you enjoy it. I really appreciate you being here, and I'll see you soon.
Well, then, if I believe in it, I'm opening myself up, I'm making myself vulnerable. So it's a lot of people come to you with kind of a skeptical intent at the start, don't they?
It's tougher than that because a normal person having a reading, okay? You imagine that you're going to the seaside and you see this little hut there and somebody's got a crystal ball and it's like, oh, tell your future for £5. And it doesn't really matter. It's like, well, she's right, she's right, she's wrong, doesn't really matter. When it's a loss of somebody like that, I am in awe of them. I'm absolutely in awe of them. And I'm so aware that, and I say to them, look, let's see if we can help you. Okay, let's see if I can help you. If I can, I will. And I'll say to them then, I think you're being incredibly brave because A, you want them to come through, but you don't know what the hell's going to happen if they do come through. Plus, you're also being brave because what if they don't come through? Because that's like another slap to you, isn't it? So I said, I'll say to him, just sit yourself down. Here's a box of tissues in case you get emotional. I'm not bothered. There's the bin. And let's see where we go. I don't look at them. I don't let them tell me anything. We just start to go through. Okay? But the point is, there comes a point where your own elation is you start to question that, right? And so I'd be thinking, oh, hang on, yeah, but you have your little conversation in your head. It's like this Joyce is going, yeah, you're doing a really good job, yeah, fantastic. And the other was going, really? I thought you're not supposed to kill yourself. So are you supposed to be really unhappy for a long time to realise you shouldn't have killed yourself? Is that your punishment? Oh, I don't know. That sounds a bit. So you're having this little two-way conversation. And I was doing a lot of, because I absolutely wouldn't want to harm anybody, you know that. Mm-hmm. But, the old saying, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. So there's no such thing as it just so happened. I came across this Lama. It was doing a little talk in a village here in the mountains.
When we say Lama, I should probably interrupt and say Buddhist rather than an alpaca, yeah.
We joke now because she says, do you want to go home now or do you want to come and hear this Lama giving a talk? I said, I want to come and see a talking Lama. And that's when I ended up having this conversation with him and said, look, don't want to bother you. I'm sorry to ask you, but I just want clarification because they actually do study, obviously, past lives. They believe in that 100%. There's a certain type of Buddhists that study clairvoyance and things like that. So I knew they wouldn't think I was crazy to start off with. And so I said, am I doing the right thing or the wrong thing? And he just looked at me and he says, I don't know the answer to that. He says, I'm still studying. He said, but Rinpoche comes in next week. Now, I thought that was his name. And he said, he's the head of the Buddhist Center. Come and see him. So I thought, right, okay, this is great. So I was really excited to go and see this chap. And I was granted an audience with him and went in. He was wonderful. And yeah, long story short, I just explained to him where I was at, that I do these readings for people and I've taken great joy, personal joy out of doing that because I felt like I've done a good thing. But is that my ego? Am I actually harming them by helping them? Are they supposed to not be in purgatory, because that's a made up word, but are they supposed to suffer a wee bit before they reincarnate? And he just looked at me and he went like that and he said, it's most important, which released the floodgates. So I was sobbing and he wouldn't let me go. He gave me a kata, which is a silk Buddhist scarf. It's like a blessing thing and it's all embroidered with Buddhist symbols and things. I don't know what they mean because I'm not a Buddhist, but the point is I was so honoured and it was almost like a huge weight had come off my shoulders. So there is a photograph I've sent here. And my eyes look like 2 hard-boiled eggs because I've been crying for about 5 hours. It was just like, I couldn't talk to anybody. Anyway, long story short, that gave me huge peace. It was almost like, yeah, you're doing all right. You crack on, just do it. It's not like I've had more people who have committed suicide, but also you've got people who have died in not so nice situations. So you've got the anger and distress of the people that are left behind, So yeah, the point is death's nothing to be afraid of at all. It's just no different than when you get home from work. You're driving home in your car. That is, if you want to think of it, your little body. And then you get out of the car and you go into the house and you look outside and there's your car and it's empty and you're not in it, but you can still see it. And people are looking at the car, but there's nobody in it. That's the best way to think of death. At no point in that process do you feel any different than you were driving the car. Tom driving the car, Tom walking up the path, Tom walking in the house is the same Tom. It's just that you're then limited by your ability to communicate with the people that are on that different frequency of life.
Mm-hmm. That's a really good. I watched an interview last night with Jeffrey Mishlove and Robert Bigelow that I'm going to put in the first episode.
He's
such a legend, isn't he? Such a legend. I love to speak to him. But Bigelow, don't forget, was given all the contracts by Harry Reid. He spent billions investigating the paranormal because he lost a lot of family members and went on this real crusade to understand what was on the other side. He owned Skinwalker Ranch and stuff like that, and he said, in summary, that he thinks containers is the perfect word, which is also something Bob Lazar mentioned, because the contents can outlast the container. And it's just a thing to hold you in one place for a while until it wears out.
Well, okay, but don't underestimate the value of the container, though, because we need that to experience the physical pain and the emotional pain.
Can you think of any particular moments where people have had their beliefs switched on a certain bit of information they've had from a channeled one? Or I know I've had my own, but yeah, are there any examples that jump out to you as a good example of when people have actually gone, yeah, all right, I'm on side?
I'm absolutely not going to mention any names because this example's just popped into my head and I haven't spoken to the person, so it isn't right to exploit that experience. It's just that there was a detective I was having a conversation with who's super skeptical, logically, and he received a message from one of his loved ones in spirit that was very specific, and he was just, his little socks rocked, and we're very good friends from that. And I know that's incredibly vague, but it's what came into my head. And I think somebody like that, who's used to being cynical is the word, has to have something like that before they will listen. You see, there was another guy she's now a dear friend of mine, but she had a session with me, and her husband came through and he had committed suicide, but he was studying quantum physics, so he's not the sort of person that you would expect to want to come through because they're scientists and all of that. But he absolutely came through, and was giving her some. He said he was looking for his cup, he couldn't see his cup, she's actually talked about it, and it's a part in one of my books, and I'm not pumping the books either. But she describes how he said he couldn't find his cup, and she says, well, no, he couldn't, because they were both particular about where everything went in the kitchen, and his mug had been in the dishwasher since he went, because she couldn't face taking his mug out of the dishwasher, so it was there. And yeah, you might just think, well, that's a little thing. It wasn't a little thing to her. Plus, he also said, so it's just like when you see that black line on the TV, the black stripe down the TV, that's just interference. I can do that because I'm energy now, so I'm interfering with the signal. And he was trying to be...
Hold on,
it didn't make any sense.
So that was specific to her because she was seeing a black line on the television.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Since he died, she'd suddenly had this black stripe right down the side of the TV, a couple of inches wide. And from the time she had that reading with me, the line never came back. So she was fascinated with that. And he's been through to her several times since. So she, to her credit, and I'm not taking any credit for it, it helped her so much to get over all of that she actually started up a suicide support group, if you like. She's based in Brighton, and she's doing a great job because she could understand it, and she could help to, well, she knew how to listen to other people and help to give them some support, you know. The people that have died is the wrong word. They're in the next stage of life, simple as, you know. You've come out of the supermarket, you're back in the car park. You're still alive, no different, you're just in a different area. You can see everybody in the store, they can't see you because you've got those tinted. That's how it works. So they're fine. Don't ever feel sorry for them. They actually describe the day of their death as their birthday. It's amazing. And if you think about that, you know, well, it's, you know, that don't make sense. Well, it doesn't make sense that you can be in your mother's womb in fluid and not bloody drown, but you haven't got gills. You certainly haven't got a little scuba set on. And then within minutes, smacked on the bum and you breathe in oxygen. That's a major transformation. If we hadn't seen it and witnessed it, we wouldn't have believed it. Mm. Okay? I think cavemen and stuff wouldn't know that it was in a womb full of amniotic fluid. They would just think it was in air and stuff, you know?
Yeah. I was listening to one of the ones, not the telepathy tapes, but just a similar person that's got an autistic son. They were asking for an explanation as to why their autistic son described their old house. They'd moved house while they were pregnant.
Right.
And he described, I like the big house and XYZ, and there was different landmarks that you could see from the house. And they were, obviously, the kids very struggles to communicate as we do.
Yeah.
But they asked him, like, where have you seen this? And they said, well, it's like a window, but not a window, when I was in Mummy's tummy. So it's you know, that's extra cognitive information, which is essentially what you're getting from these people. It's not coming from your primary human senses, if you know, or at least accepted senses. So are there any more examples of that kind of, because I love those key in the lock moments where somebody gets something so ridiculously hyper specific that it can't be denied.
Okay. And I think it's important, you know, because, you know, we just said that might be little to somebody else, like the mug in the dishwasher. But it's the little things that really, that's what torpedoes them, you know. I have a wonderful friend, and her husband died under horrendous circumstances, horrible farm accident, and she was left with all these children, the oldest of whom used to help his dad on the farm, and at the time he was only about 12, and he didn't know what to do. He was angry, he was upset, he felt guilty, blah, 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 all the normal emotions that you do. And this wasn't suicide, it was just a tragic accident. And when I went round to the house, I didn't go around to preach and everything. I was just Joyce. Oh, Joyce is here, you know, come and give me loads of hugs. And I used to draw, you know, they had a kid's room, and I painted great big spiders with smiley faces. I was part of the family, you know. And his dad, who'd passed, was what made me say to him, I had to take him in the kitchen away from everybody else and say, listen, shush a minute, because he was upset and he didn't want to look at me or anything. I said, your dad wants to know what the hell's all the bananas doing under your bed. And his eyes were like that, and he was like, what? And he was, you know how these lads do. He was spinning around going, what? No way, no way. I said, tell me, what's with the bananas under your bed? Because your dad's laughing. And his grandma had been round. It was a bit, challenged.
Yeah.
And she told him that if you eat a banana at bedtime, it'll help you to sleep. Now, I've heard other people say that, but he was a 12-year-old lad. He doesn't like bananas. But he realised that she was going to just keep pushing, so he said, I'll take it to bed with me. So he'd shoved them all under the bed, meaning to take them out the next day. And he'd ended up with about half a dozen bananas under his bed. Now, how the hell could I have guessed that? And that was him. So that gave him a lot of peace. And it took him about 6 months before he'd actually come and say, is my dad okay? And then he would say, yeah, but you don't want to go with that redhead at school. Forget her. She's big trouble, man, And he'd start laughing and think, oh, Dad, shut up. But it was okay to talk to him, And the kids still know it's okay to talk to their dad. And so what I was able to say to them was, well, when it's his birthday, make sure you do the things that he would have normally done. Have some fruit and nut. He liked fruit and nut chocolate. Have a few beers. So that's what they do. And it's like a celebration because it's a happy birthday day for Dad. If you think of it as an anniversary of the worst day in your life, it is the worst day in your life, without question. It wasn't the worst day in their life. And if they've been ill, with your grandma, she had dementia, God bless her little socks. And she didn't know what she was doing and what time she was doing it. She's absolutely fine now. Which makes it worse, kind of, because she'll be even more logical about being OCD, won't she? Let's hope Grandma make sure you make him more tidy. How's that? She can.
Big job.
You'll have all your underpants in colour code now and stuff like that.
Hey, if I want to get some poltergeist house tidying, then I'm well up for it. That'd be fantastic. We're onto something there.
Let me tell you this one because this is really cool. That same friend of mine who lost her husband, she was moving from a small bungalow to a great big farmhouse. And she was so chaotic. And the kids, it was like the Waltons on speed. There was all different age groups. They were going everywhere. You'd see the dog shooting through, followed by a 5-year-old with long orange hair with a pair of scissors. Like, it was mental all the time. And she said, what am I going to do? I don't know how I can cope. I said, listen, just ask upstairs to send you somebody that's really organised and good at moving house. And she just laughed, thought it was funny. She woke up at 6 o'clock the next morning. She went straight to the kitchen and found a big marker pen that she knew she didn't have, because you can't keep felt pens in the house where there's kids. They always go. And she says by 9:30 she'd got everything packed, and she'd written on each box, bedroom, left-hand side of stairs, bedroom 2, right-hand side of stairs. And the removal men came and said, whoa, do you want a job with us? Because this is great. So then when we'd finished laughing about that, she says, do you think I can ask for a guy who's anorexic because I need to lose weight?
Oh, my God. Well, that touches on a really interesting subject, which I wasn't going to go into, and is probably one for a whole other chat, which is apports. Have you got any examples of when people have had a physical thing? Because that's a part and parcel of this discussion, isn't it? I mean, I personally think UFOs are all apports. It's a physical thing manifesting from a non-physical source. And yet so when I was talking to Grant Cameron, he was talking about Uri Geller, and they were out for dinner with Hal Puthoff, and Uri Geller thought he'd bit a bone, and he pulled out his Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, pulled out the front part of his flight pin. And he said, where the hell did you get that? I lost that in Florida like weeks ago. Later in the day, there was a clink, and it was the back part of his flight pin, and Geller wasn't in the room. So it wasn't some sort of stagecraft. And yet there's this accepted thing of, I see a red robin or there's a white feather on my bed and stuff like that, isn't there? Or like
that. It's more common than that. You'll get the most normal people, and there's a huge percentage of people that it happens to, where they're looking for something, they're emptying drawers, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they know they've looked there 7 times. Well, look again, because that's where it is. And it's like, oh, no, like you and your car keys. They were under your seat, right? I recently had that with one of the girls that comes to my development class, and she was looking for some important papers that she needed for a solicitor. And her father was showing me that they were in a, like the fool's cap A4 brown envelopes. There's one of those, and there's that much stuff in it that it's not closed properly. So it's like bulgy. But underneath that is a plastic sleeve, and those papers are in that. So you've actually been nearly to the bottom of that drawer, pull everything out. So she did. And that was just me sitting at home having a cuppa, but she'd messaged me, and straight away I could see it. And that's where it was. Now, that's not an report, because that's where it was. But and it wasn't really remote viewing, I don't think, because I wasn't trying to see them. I think it was her dad wanted her to get in touch with me so he could tell her, because she wasn't listening. She was in too much stress. But just this week, I've had to stop having some blood pressure tablets, which I hate having things like that. But long story short, I had a few incidents where I thought, I need to find these tablets. And I'd looked everywhere, absolutely everywhere, went out, came back in, and I've got quite a sharp slope up to my front door I'm halfway up a mountain. And my head was like boom, boom, boom. And I walked in and they were on the floor in front of the sofa. I sit on that sofa all the time. There's a 1-foot gap between the front of the sofa and the coffee table and the carpet's oatmeal. There's no way on this earth I could have missed those. And I thought, never mind. Wow, that's amazing. Get one down you, because you obviously need one now. So that's what I did. But you think of how many times people have been looking for something and then it's appeared and they know they've looked there. That's what I'm trying to say. That's an report. Hasn't got to be anything other than that. Or, yeah, sometimes a feather falling. Now, this is a good one. You're talking about feathers. But think about it logically, because I'm super, super strict on all of this sort of stuff. There's birds flying around everywhere and feathers come out. We know that. But most of the time, a feather, or a leaf for that matter, if it comes down on a current, it's kind of wafty, isn't it? If you see one come down straight in front of you, that defies physics. That's special. That's special. That's just for you. It hasn't always got to be great big things. I mean, if you think about it logically, that's what they do with everything, because they have to use your senses to let you know they're there. So, yeah, you can get a smell of something and you know it's not there. You can hear something, you know it's not there. But to you, it's concrete.
Yeah.
So you can definitely. And sometimes 2 people can smell the same thing. You can have 2 people that are really strongly smelling cigarettes, but nobody smokes in this house.
Yeah.
So
do you want to see something
that again? Go on, you've just found a feather.
No. So there's a thing I love called the white crow. Okay. But it's something that Jacques Vallée and Michelov talk about this kind of trickster element and how something weird will happen to give you a shake and make you notice. And when you see a white crow, for example, you go, Jesus, look at that. And it snaps you out of your human routine. Well, I was walking the dog after talking about the white crow, and I found this. Whoops.
A broken lamp.
A broken lamp, which is a black and white crow feather.
That is a special one, isn't it?
And that's literally under the tree where this big flock of crows hang out, just around the corner from my house. Awesome. Beautiful, isn't it?
Oh, you've got to keep that.
Well,
yeah, keep that.
Yeah. But yeah, I didn't want to derail the conversation too much there, but I think that's a little apport.
I think so.
It's interesting how that all seems to happen, isn't it?
But I think a lot of this stuff, people expect it to be a great big thing. Okay? A great big thing. It doesn't have to be. A lot of them are little things that you don't even notice. Like you're fiddling with that lamp now, right?
Yeah.
I'm not telling you off about it. I'm just saying. how many times I'll say, oh, your dad's been fiddling with your lights, and you say, oh yeah, it keeps going on and off, keeps going on and off. Well, it might just be that they've got a short or something, but if it never happens again after you've had that conversation, then it wasn't a short, right?
Yeah.
I don't want people to assume or attach every single thing like that as something super duper special. It's got to be unusual. I used to think the feather thing was just, sugar coated until this one day I'd had a conversation with somebody about it. I opened the front door to go down to my car, and on the path, equally spaced and the same size, was 5 swan feathers. I lived in a town. Okay. And that made me think, right, okay, I brought them to Spain with me because I just looked upward. I said, right, Mum, I believe you, you know. So again, evenly spaced. If you'd measured it, it would have been like, that's not possible. You know, we've lived in the country. If a sparrowhawk attacks a bird, there's a poof impact fluff in there. There's impact fluff.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that. It was just like, okay, lady, talk this one away. I could just imagine them upstairs going, how's she going to dismiss this one? And I couldn't. So then I accept it. And I think that's when, if people did that more, then, as in, try and explain it away. Then you're left with, like, is it Sherlock Holmes? Yeah. Dismiss everything else, and what you're left with is the truth.
Yeah.
And if more people did that, there'd be more belief in the unusual. We don't have to be able to explain it, you know. I don't know how to explain it. I just know this is how it happens. I don't know how it works. That doesn't mean it's not working.
Yeah.
And the trouble is, I don't think we've got the knowledge now, scientific or otherwise, to explain a lot of this phenomena. The orbs, you know, all of this. So some of these beings that I see as well, you know, the blue one and stuff like that, they're not people in spirit, but I still get them. They're just using that same, you know, it doesn't matter if it's the tax man or your best mate. If they're ringing you, it's a phone call, and that's it. They all sound the same.
The same senses having to interpret the different sources type thing, isn't it?
Exactly. So, you know, twins can be telepathic. You can know from a long distance. If you're really close to your family member or your loved one, you'll just feel something's not right. That's an in-tuneness that's going on. Now, is that your intuition? There's no such thing as intuition. That's you being warned about something that's going to happen. People have dreams about their loved ones dying in horrible accidents and stuff. And the next morning they wake up, they phone in, it's like, oh, no, it's fine, he's absolutely fine. And then within a month it happens. Sometimes. So if you've had that, don't think it's going to happen. Sometimes it's just what they call a precognitive dream, where you've gone through the shock of it and then found out that it's not happened. And so when it does happen, it's kind of softened it a wee bit. Not that it can, but you know what I mean? You breached the dam a wee bit before it broke. I just think there's so much that we don't know, and we don't do ourselves any justice or service by dismissing anything that's not in a textbook.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I think this research that's going on. Gary Nolan, absolute superstar. He's actually doing.
I'm speaking to him in 5 days.
Well, are you now? No, but you think he is amazing. He is Mr. Science, and yet with his research, looking at it from I'm going to find out what this is, not, oh, I'm going to prove that this is how it works. He's actually found out that there are changes in people's brains that when they're people like me and stuff like that. That's where we go from here. And we've got the spooky action at a distance with Einstein and people like that. What's wrong with calling that spooky action? We don't know it's working, but it's working. So, okay. That doesn't mean it's not working. Just accept that it works until we get to a stage where we can explain it. But too many people, that's their cut-off point. They've got PhDs or masters or whatever, and that doesn't fit in with what the current thinking is. And so, no, we're going to dismiss it. Instead of just thinking, well, that's interesting, I'm going to leave that on the table. At some point, that'll be cool. So we're cutting ourselves off from the fact that we're stopping ourselves, our life here. We're stopping it here. Instead of thinking, right, well, when I go from this one, I'm telling the audience, I've told my sons that when I pop off, I ain't going to be hanging around them all the time. I've got a lot of traveling I want to do. And I'm going to go and do all my traveling when I'm dead because it's free. And from time to time, I'll pop in and make sure they're okay. I'm absolutely not scared of death. And that's what is upsetting to me more than anything about my job. I wish that we didn't need mediums, because we're all mediums. We can all do it. But you guys think that you're missing your loved ones every day. They keep coming into your head. But he's been gone for 18 years. Oh, no, I miss him like it was yesterday. Well, you're not missing him. He's actually there every day. So the part of your brain that can do that you don't know about, just knows that, oh, he's here or mum's here. And you get that little bit of emotion that comes up. Well, that's completely different from your emotion, which comes from your thoughts and your emotions. So when it whooshes up and takes you by surprise, people do that wafty thing, which I don't know why. But yeah, that's because you're still sensing them in your heart energy. It's a lovely thing to know. And when they see that, then they can be relaxed and be okay with each other,
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I was talking about that this morning. It's you get that spirit tears or whatever when you touch the weirdness or when it touches you. But then it's the same as when you're in a cinema and an amazing piece of music comes on at the end of a good film, and you just it's that same thing, isn't it? You haven't thought yourself into being sad enough to cry. It is an unconscious response to a stimuli to your senses. It's really interesting.
Babies that you've only got to look on YouTube. Babies emotional first time hearing classical music or something, and there's some amazing things, little tiny ones, and they're they don't know anything about music other than Andy Pandy Teletubby type stuff, and suddenly they're completely moved by Beethoven or Bach sonatas or something. It's just so that's emotion. That's how we are supposed to be. We're supposed to be emotional beings. That doesn't mean crazy emotional beings. We're supposed to use our emotional intelligence, our senses. It's how we gauge if we're safe or not. That's how children are. That's how puppies are. Dogs, horses. If you're giving off the wrong vibe, it ain't going to end well, is it? But if you're just kind, that's all that matters. It doesn't matter if you don't speak somebody's language. If you're just giving them kindness. When people come to see me here, there's Spanish people, there's Russian people, there's Lithuanian people, there's all sorts of people. And yeah, I need translators because I'm not that flipping good at languages, but there you go. But they come in and I immediately give them a hug, and the times they just collapse and give me, just sobbing because they suddenly feel safe and no words have been spoken. And I think that's an amazing thing, because if you're at peace with yourself and you're not using your ego, like you were talking about before, with people that are egotistical or I got, if you just think, I'm here to help you, this is a safe place, that'll do. And if everybody in the world did that, wouldn't that be great?
I totally agree. I think that's a wonderful summary. So have you got any advice for people when they get on the other side?
Yeah. Yes, I have. Here's some practical advice then, okay? Keep yourself at a certain distance from them. And we're talking about actual distance, meters, okay? And if you want, I can explain that better. If you agree to meet somebody and they've had way too much garlic, it's like, whoa. But if they sit sort of 2 chairs away, it's okay. It doesn't overwhelm you, right? And so don't forget that as much as you have emotion and you still love them, they still love you. Hence the heart being hurt. We actually have, the doctors will tell you it's heartache. It's broken heart. You can die of a broken heart. People actually have. It's just horrendous. But I'm just waiting to see what they want me to tell you next. Yeah, so don't go rushing in. You know, if somebody's been hurt or something, had a fall, you'll go rushing round, breaking all the speed limits to get that. They're already in hospital. You can take all day. They're safe. Just chill the hell out unless you're the best doctor that they can have. Just chill the hell out. They don't need your frantic energy going in. They need you to be calm. So when you've passed, you want to let them know that you're okay. Okay? Now, if you're upset, they're going to pick that up on their heart energy. They've already got their own tears and sadness that they're dealing with, but then it's like double whammy, you know? You're getting hit by 2 wet fish at the same time. It's like, ooh, pushes your face. And so that was very attractive, wasn't it? So it's just that idea that when you've gone, stay calm. Talk to all the people that are coming towards you in spirit, that are people that you know and love, and they will talk you through it. Then approach your loved ones gently. Okay? If you stay about anything from 4 to 12 feet away, start 12 feet away and take a little tiny step towards them. When we were children, we used to play a game called What Time Is It, Mr. Wolf? Okay? Yes. Where one person faces the wall, the rest of you get in a line, and you quietly sneak up. And if you're good at this, you'll know that as soon as somebody moves, you'll know. Okay? It's your energy and their energy, and that's how you sense things. Right? So what you're doing is you're totally dependent on their senses to let you know they're there. They're already in an upset state. So if you go gently, they can deal with the emotion. They get that little catching of the breath. They'll have the emotion and they can push it back down and talk about you without just collapsed on the sofa. So take your time. That's the first thing. You, the one that's left, take your time. Take your time. Let yourself cry. Let yourself rage. Let all of that out. Right? You've got to let it out. Because otherwise it just sits in there and festers like a bad curry. Right? Got to come out and then you'll feel better. So do all of that. Tell your loved one. Don't come around me for a week. Until you feel, right, okay, I'm ready for you now. And then you sit yourself down nice and in a safe place. Have some tissues, because you know you're going to cry, but that's okay. Just chill out and you just think outwards, like a ray of sun coming out of your head, okay? Right, let's call him Dave, okay? Right, Dave. Right, if you're here, come and let me feel something. And you'll feel a change on your body. Slight change, okay? And then what you do is you think, right, okay, thanks for that. So I know that's you, take that off me, and it'll go off you immediately. Then your conscious, quizzical brain will think, wow, that just happened. And then what you do is say, right, okay, come back in, but don't make me cry. That's how you'll start to get it. And yes, it'll be like talking to yourself. Apart from there'll be no gap between your question and their answer. It's instant. They'll even interrupt you. You're answering yourself before you finish your question. That's you getting your messages. The smell that we were talking about, that's a very soft, easy way for people to make you think about them in a nice way. Even the most cynical person, they're going through a horrible time, because everybody has horrible times. Even people who are billionaires who suddenly lose a lot of money will be having a horrible time. And then they might just get a smell of something, and it's like, oh, that reminds me of my granddad. Oh, I wish he was here. I know what he'd be telling me. And so you've just had a message from your granddad without you realising it. But it was all that little subtle change. And that's why people don't realise that they don't need people like me, because they're already doing it themselves.
Brilliant. Well, I think that's wonderful. I think that's a nice way to wrap up the whole damn thing. So thank you very much.
Good.